I don't know where I was hiding. I just went to the training calendar and opened it that way.
It was really
But
nice.
then I won't be the host.
Really excited.
And you,
It's still on. I still
Alright.
launched it.
Great. Learn about budgets.
and we're KW training, so it should be okay. Don't leave it.
No,
So if
That
I
should
just share
work.
my screen, will it let me?
yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Because I don't think you have to worship. Heck yeah.
Yep, okay, perfect. All right, there is a handout. Do you guys have your handouts? No. We're also doing a drawing. For your business card too. Why I got your back and I brought some blanks for your. And I'm really. Oh, this is a great though. People who are at the top. They are still a drawing.
You want us to sign into this? Facebook or should I?
Krista, Alex, Regan, cool.
I don't know what it's called, budget.
Sure.
Page 99.
I don't know, but
Okay.
9-9.
99.
I kept looking at my my like watch while I was like to check the date today. I was like, what am I doing?
Tammy, what's your last name?
I'm ready.
R-U-D-E. See, I had it in my mind, but I was like, is that right?
Isn't it terrible?
No.
All right.
So.
What else do I have?
Put my name in there.
No, I didn't. You want me to? I mean, geez, you put Regan in there.
They're online. Open up that.
Goodness gracious. We're just gonna give it a couple more minutes here in case we got anybody else. I'm also gonna be sharing, so we've got the handouts. Hopefully everybody, if you're online and you haven't received the handouts, let me know and then I'll have Emily run and send them to you digitally. I'm also sharing a version of them essentially in an Excel format. So if you aren't a paper and pencil and you love a good spreadsheet like I do, then you got your options. So
It's super fun story.
I got everybody so far. Okay.
I know that said it was recorded. You know, my only concern is when I get back, to make sure I don't have it to send out. And that saves.
It says pause slash stop recording, so it should be good.
Good, cool.
Okay.
Great last name. Rude. Yeah. And I think it's my mom.
Dang.
Funny how God was like, ha ha,
Mhm.
here you go.
Oh,
Carly online.
Oh, Carly Nelson's online.
She is in the.
Are you in the building, Carly Nelson? What the heck? Called you out. Nice
Carly,
try.
we're partying in the training room. Come join us.
Okay, well, I want this.
Carly cookies.
Carly. There's crumble cookies in here. I brought treats. Ooh, turn that off. Okay, I am missing my notes because I can't do speaker view because I don't have two different screens here. Can we print? Or share the screen? Can you print? Can we print from this computer?
I don't know. I probably not.
Okay. Well, we're gonna wing it. So here we go. Jesus, Cammy. We're off to a great start in the office here, guys. So sorry. Okay, so first of all, I just want to introduce myself in case anybody doesn't know. My name is Rachel. I'm the Market Center Administrator here. So I get to do all of the Market Center financials, work with our agents on business planning, work with you guys, and so I'm really excited today to talk about budgets. Like, yay! Yeah, super pumped. So I'm going to share my screen here really quick. We're going to go from there. So you should have a handout. Can you grab me one, actually? You should have a handout already that's going to have the worksheets that we're going to go through today and really talk about how to build out your business plan. And, you know, it's September. We're just finishing up Q3 here, moving into Q4. And now is the time to be prepared for 2022. Believe it. I keep thinking it's gonna be 2021 next year. I don't know what happened. And so, because what you create and the plan you set in place now and the activities that you start doing today are going to be what creates your January business. So you don't want to be in December coming up with a plan, because then you're going to be running into a successful Q2 next year, not a successful Q1. And we had a really great conversation around that. I know at the ALC meeting, and Regan's on here, and had talked about, what is the goal to have under pending by November 15th, because that's going to be your business for quarter 1. So don't just look at wrapping up this year, look at how are you going to set yourself up for success next year. And so what we're going to do here is this is to focus on your profit. At the end of the day, we can have awards and things on how many closed units you have, on how many houses you sell. That's all great. And then at the end of the day, if there's no money in your bank account and you didn't do all the things you wanted to do in your life, was it really worth it? No, thank you. Thanks for participation. No, we yesterday again, we sat at the LC meeting and Carrie Schmidt said, I don't want to win awards for the most closings. I want the most GCI. And how do I do that? What does that look like? And how do I make sure that I'm creating the life that I want to have, and doing that in a way that it's not all about work. It's about running a business that's going to then fund my life. So we're going to look at today how to pick your profit, what that looks like, a little bit mostly on that, and then looking at some examples of a pro forma or your financial statements, and then how to filter decisions through that, and then really making sure you're reviewing your financials monthly. So first thing I want to talk about is lead and lag measures. Can anybody tell me the difference between a lead and a lag measure, maybe examples of lead and lag measures? Yeah, okay, great. It's teaching something. So lead measures, those are your activities that are most likely going to lead to the results you want to see, right? So for a great example, the number of appointments that you go on, or the number of appointments that you set is going to lead to how many listings you have, or how many buyer contracts you put under, and that is going to turn into how many closings you have, right? Or planning your profit in advance, creating your GPS and following your GPS, which is what we're going to talk about in the next class, and taking profit out of your business monthly. So I have this really great book right here that we are going to raffle off at the end, and everybody who is online, we are getting you into this drawing as well, because taking that profit and making sure that profit is the most important thing is really important, because I think sometimes we look at our profit goals as like that'd be great. Like, that'd be great if I got to go on this vacation, or that'd be great if I got to do this. Not, this is a requirement of what my business is going to function as. So taking that out monthly so that it doesn't just get lost in the wash of your business plan. So then your lag measures, like we talked about, did you meet your profit goals? Are you living a life worth living? Do you have lowered stress and increased fun? Those are the things that are going to come after the fact, and you need these lead measures to help you with that process. And what do those lead measures look like to you? Oh no, oh dear, oh geez, hold on. Can you tell I don't normally use Google Slides? There we go. So one of the easiest ways I think of in like lead and lag measures to explain this to help you is like, look at your diet and exercise. If you're on like a weight loss plan, right? Like your lead measure is making sure you're hitting your calorie count, or making sure you're getting your 10,000 steps in, making sure you're doing all the activities so that when you show up at the scale for your weekly weigh-in, you're seeing the results that you want to see. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So here's where we're going to talk about the old way of thinking, where we looked at, our income minus our cost of sales minus our expenses. That's when we get profit. And that's where we're talking about making sure that profit's not whatever's left over. Profit is the biggest piece of your business, and the part that is going to make this a really fun business to be in. So we're going to look at your income as you're losing your cost of sales, the things you have to do to run your business, and then your profit, and then your owner salary, and then what's left over, that's your expenses, right? Your expenses don't determine your profit determines what your expenses are, and running that through that cycle to make sure that you're making the correct decisions for your business. So the way we're going to do that is with the Life by Design sheet. So you have this, it's the front page of your handout. You have it. Hopefully this camera's a little far away from me. And we're gonna really break down what this looks like. And so one of the things before we get started that I want to talk about, and I know if you were on Paul's class last week, this was talked about at least to some extent, is making sure you pay your taxes. First and foremost, make sure you can pay your taxes. Was anybody at Mega Camp a couple weeks ago, I suppose now? How many times did you hear we didn't pay enough taxes, or we didn't save enough for taxes, or we were paying back taxes for the next 3 years? Like, that's not fun. You know, you finally get your business up and running, you're making money, and you have to go pay back all of these taxes that you didn't plan for in the front end. Like, how disappointing that would be. So we're going to make sure that when you're building this, you're factoring in what those taxes look like, and making sure that you're reverse engineering and calculating the amount of taxes correctly. So in order to do that, you have to figure out what your tax rate is and make sure you do that with your accountant. I'm sure Paul gave some great tips last week on that, what that looks like. What's your tax rate? And then you take that, take 100% minus the tax rate you picked. So you could do this little sample here if you'd like. And what does that equal to? So I picked 30%, it's a fairly common number. Doesn't mean it's everybody's number. And 100% minus 30%, therefore equals 70%. And if my profit goals are $100,000, and we'll get into that section in a little bit here. If my profit goal is $100,000, then I divide that number by the 70%, this X that I have left over here. And that's what I figure out my profit goal, my gross profit goal needs to be $142,857.14 if we're being exact. That's going to make sure that I have money to meet my goals and pay taxes on that money I just earned. That makes sense. Does anybody want to take a little break and try to work through this calculation? We're good so far. Okay. I'll show you here in a real life example how this looks. So let's say you have your profit allocations, and feel free to start jotting down your own here. You know, what would be some things you would put here? Anybody willing to share some of their examples of what they want their profit to be? This isn't your personal expenses. We're going to get there. This isn't making sure you pay your mortgage. That's coming later in this. This is when we have profit and everything I have to do is done. Here's what I would love to do with this money. What does that look like in your guys' lives?
I have savings, I have a track budget.
Travel, savings.
There's one other thing that
You didn't super care because you don't remember what it is. So we're going to revisit that. Would be helpful.
pretty certain that was.
Anybody else have ideas of what their profit would go towards? I'll show you some of my examples. Family vacation, going on your travel. Let's say that costs us $10,000. My family, that's probably pushing it. We're going to go with round numbers. Paying ahead on student loan debt. Anybody else have that besides me? Yep, a couple of us. $20,000 in this year, let's say. I'm really trying to dig into it quickly. Buying a rental property, right? Creating those investments. And what is that down payment? Let's say a down payment is going to cost $60,000 for that property. Saving for the kids' college fund. I realized I almost have a middle schooler, which means college is coming really quickly. Thanks. So making sure I'm saving at least $10,000. So when I add all of that up, that equals magically $100,000 right on the nose. So if you were to go the way a lot of people can look at it and say, well, what's 30% of 100? That's $30,000. So therefore, my grand total would be 130. Like that's kind of what logically tends to make sense in people's heads. However, when you do the math, if you take 30% of $130,000, how much is that? Have we got a calculator? You're gonna make me do it? 30% of 130,000. What is that? $39,000. So out of that 130, I now have to pay 39,000 of it to the government. And that means 9,000 of what I was planning for went to the government instead of the other way around and staying with me. So that means I just lost my family vacation. So making sure you're calculating those taxes properly and dividing by that in this example, the 70% brings us to the $142,000 that we were just talking about. Any questions there? Makes sense? So then you're going to take this amount, $142,000, and take that by divide that by your average commission. So hopefully you know what your average commission is. If you need help with that, I got plenty of reports. I'm happy to help you fill that out. And for this instance, we went with an even $10,000 as a market center. That's about what our average commission is, running right around 10,000. So that put me, excuse me, I'll back up here. So that put us at 15. So I need 15 closings to fulfill my profit goals, just my profit goals alone. So then you move to the next section on your handout here, which is your personal expenses. What do those look like? Here's the fun part of running your budget. So you've got this, and then also in here, it gives you a little bit more space to work on your worksheet. So the second page would be the monthly personal budget worksheet to look at what it really costs you to live your life. And my recommendation is you go back through, if you don't already have a personal budget, you don't know what you spend your money on, and you don't focus on this regularly, go through your bank statements for the last 12 months, item by item. Where did you spend your money? And there's no judgment in that of what it is. It's just getting real with the numbers and being comfortable with where they're at, or choosing to make adjustments. So like when I did this with my family, the amount of money we spent eating out, yikes. You don't realize $10, $12, $15 over and over, like that adds up really quickly. And is that something, when we sit back and look at it, is that where we really want to spend our money? If it is, if going out to eat is how you socialize, is how you enjoy your life, perfect. Keep doing that. For us, we looked at it and said, well, what if we ate out twice a week instead of 4 times a week? Like, how much money are we going to save? And we'll still get to have that feeling and be able to make those adjustments in the mix. So really going through and going item by item by item by item. And it sounds painful. It really probably takes a few hours, to be honest. I know when I was going through the Profit Camp class, and she did it, she's like, I sat through a football game and on all the commercials. I just started going through it. She's like, I got through it in the entire football game, you know, and there was just commercial time to still watch during the play. So definitely something to really nail down what these personal expenses look like is going to be a big piece of this. So we can go through here and we can certainly spend time workshopping this. I came up with some examples of what this may look like. This varies for everybody, obviously. So I came up with a total of $65,000 a year that may happen here. So now the next part I want to point out is about the taxes. So there's a section here for taxes. If you have your business set up to the point that you're paying yourself a salary, so you're a W-2 employee of your S Corp, for example, and that the net salary after you take out your taxes to the state happens there already, do not factor taxes here. You don't want that there because you've already paid it. So you're going to like double save for taxes, which is better than not saving at all, I suppose. And you're taking out money you don't necessarily need to. So if you, like, I'm going to say this again, if you are paying yourself a salary that covers these personal expenses, the net check you get every 2 weeks is going to be enough to do this. Do not utilize this tax formula right here. Make sure that you're leaving that blank. If you are not running it that way, you're doing an LLC through your personal, you chose not to do a salary, you're going to want to do the exact same calculation we did on the front end of the profit, where you divide by in this example, the 70% when you took your 100 minus 30 equals 70. Does that make sense? Yes. So then you take this number, in this example, $65,000, and how many closings do I need that are going to help me get to that point? So I'm rounding up because I don't want to short anything. So 7. Makes sense. Makes sense? Perfect. Then you get finally to your business, right? Like, we feel like this should be the first thing. And even when I'm going through this, like, oh, we haven't touched business, we haven't touched business, we haven't touched business yet. That's okay, because it's coming into the mix. It's the last thing in this mix. I mean, you think about our core beliefs of God, family, business, kind of runs the same idea, really. God's not quite in the mix of your budget yet. Maybe he is. Maybe the tithing's in there somewhere. However, your family came first and then your business expenses came after. And so looking at the difference here, anybody tell me what the cost of sales, the COS, what the difference is between that and your expenses? Oh, I cheated. You know the difference?
Sale is like commission based. You earn a commission, you pay for it.
Correct.
Expenses are just their direct.
Exactly. So your cost of sale, good job. Brownie point, gold star. Should have brought gold stars. I didn't get any of my birthday present today, so I couldn't use them. Sorry. Just kidding. Got a lot of things. Huh? Oh, we got mini trophies. We'll find a mini trophy for you later. So exactly what Cami just said. So for those on the screen, cost of sales only occurs when a commission or income is collected. So like your market center cap, right? You don't pay into the market center your 30% split unless you actually have a commission to split. Fair enough. Your KWI royalty, same thing. Closing gifts would be another example that could fall in this category, right? You're probably not going to give a closing gift if you don't actually have a closing. Fair? Your expenses happen regardless of whether or not you actually made money. So some of these expenses will be dependent on your activities. However, things like photography and staging, a lot of people think like, oh, that's a cost of sale. Well, what happens if your listing doesn't close? What if they cancel? Is your photographer going to say, don't worry about paying me on that one? Probably not. If you have a photographer who does that, you should probably let everybody else know their name. However, those are upfront costs for you. They are certainly money-making expenses and things you should be spending your money on. They just fall under the expense category, because if you have 15 listings this year, you more than likely have paid your photographer 15 times for those pictures. And if 13 of them only sold, those other 2, you still paid for that photography. Right? So looking at what that cost of sales and expenses looks like. So here are some examples of what the business expenses look like. You have another breakdown in the worksheet in here of the annual business expenses that can give you more details, looking at things like professional services. What do you pay your accountant? You're gonna have to do your taxes. Make sure you have a good accountant. What is the market, your market center cap? So I put in next year's cap here, right? Everybody knows we're dropping our cap from 20,000 to 13,000, 19.9, excuse me, not 20, to 13,000 coming up here in 2022. Team member splits. If you don't have team members, you don't have team member splits. So that's easy if you're a solo agent. If you're a team and your people want to make money, you should factor in the fact that you're going to have to pay them their portion, right? Like they're going to have these closings. Oh, Kyle's distracting me. It's not fair. So looking at that, and for your team member splits, there's been a lot of questions. Well, how do I figure out what that is? It's the easiest way to figure out how much money your team members are going to make. Based on their goals. Exactly. How much money do they want to make? So Cami's example, Rebecca says, I want to make $65,000 next year. Well, guess what? Your team split is $65,000 plus anybody else on your team, and factoring that in to help build what your goals really look like. So we look at those costs of sales. We look at what our expenses are in the mix here to come down to our expense total. There were a few things I think I wanted to point out in here as well. So looking at factoring, like in your expenses, a good one would be like your monthly invoices with the market center, right? Those are going to happen regardless if you had a closing or not. So making sure whether that falls under your insurance because it's your E&O, your communication and technology because it's your tech fee. You don't pay for a CRM, you get to utilize that portion of your monthly invoice there. Pointing those out is going to be a big piece to this as well. Any questions on the business expenses? What qualifies, what doesn't qualify, where you put it, all of that fun stuff. So clear. It's amazing. Perfect.
Yeah, so I got.
Oh, go for it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say, because they have a parking lot that's kind of like behind the building, but that we have to pay. So what I'm thinking is, maybe I should meet you downstairs. And we go park a car, maybe go park a car at home because your place is probably 10 minutes or so away from here. And then bring it back so that we don't have to pay. Yeah, so that we don't have to pay. So just kind of hold on there. Let me see if I can get my.
Right, perfect. That was fun. That's why I love Zoom so much. Okay, so you take all of those business expenses. You don't calculate the taxes on these because these are your expenses, right? Like these are what is gonna lower your taxes at the end of the day, to come up with what your grand total there looks like. So here in this instance, I came up with a grand total of expenses of $87,020, which if I'm doing a $10,000 commission, there leads to 9 units. Yeah. So then this all rolls in at the very bottom of your worksheet. Just add those numbers up. Seems easy. So I said 15 for my profit, 7 for my personal expenses, and 9 to cover my business expenses, which shows me the number of units that I need to bring a total of 31 closings this year. Does that make sense? Seems easy. Not have as many questions as I'm talking about.
Do we have this page in?
This page?
Yeah.
This should be the very first page. It's like the section, like I broke it out.
Oh, cute. Okay, I was like searching the whole thing like that.
Yeah, it's all one page. So in your
Okay.
handout, good
Perfect.
question. Looking at these slides that are super helpful and people are like, how do I use that? Where is it? It's the front page, the whole thing. So I broke it out into sections to discuss each of the differences between the sections. So your profit allocations, your personal expenses, your business expenses, it all rolls into that front page to be able to create this, to figure out what your production really needs to look like next year. You know, I mean, thinking about things like, am I going to invest in leverage? Am I going to invest in a transaction coordinator? That's going to have to go in. That would fall right there into your cost of sales, right? If you're going to strictly have a TC who's only based on closed files versus if you have an admin who has a salary, then that runs into your business expenses there to make sure that you're including those kinds of things and building in for your business what it is supposed to be and what you want it to look like next year, because now's the time to do that while you have time to then create a plan to move forward with it. So then the next thing would be to create your pro forma. Oh geez, I can't even say it. It's such a fancy word. Pro forma, or I call this a budget. Your P&L, your balance sheet, making sure you know what your income is and where it is going. So your handout has examples of this. Towards the back, you can see a P&L, a balance sheet. These are things I look at for the market center at least a couple times a week, if not more. I expect that for you, looking at this monthly makes sense, knowing where to adjust, knowing did you go over a little bit this month compared to last month. Did you spend the right amount of money that you were supposed to, or did you overspend? Did you make more than you were planning on? And where does that go? Does that go straight to profit? Are you going to choose to invest that in your business? Really getting comfortable with your numbers and getting comfortable with what your business is doing is going to be a really freeing thing. I mean, how many people, you know, maybe at some point or maybe they're going through it now have said, like, I'm making all this money and I don't know where it goes. Like, that's a real thing, and that can be kind of scary. And understanding where it's going, and even if it's in a spot right now that you're not comfortable with, it's a starting point. So if you feel like you're overspending, well, let's find out where that is. And my example, when I realized how much money we were spending on food in on restaurants in our family, like that didn't feel great to see it, and I knew what it was to change it. So getting real with your numbers and getting really comfortable with that is going to be a huge piece to making sure that this is happening and you can make real changes in your life. So when you look at building, and the spreadsheet I just sent you digitally, and I'll get it to you, Cindy, as well, is all of these worksheets. I'm going to create essentially like a P&L on there as well as the last tab. To be perfectly honest with you, ran out of time. And so that you can really hone in on what your P&L looks like, what you planned to spend, and also what you're actually doing, and do those two things match. The other thing I wanted to mention too, when it comes to looking at your budget and planning out your monthly things. So there's things, and why we say go back and look at the last 12 months of your transactions, because there's annual things that happen in your life, right? If I only look back at the last 3 months of things I did over the summer, that's missing my Amazon renewal that happens in February, or that's missing hockey. Anybody else have kids who play sports? I got 2 kids in hockey. Guess what? Registration that happens in July is expensive. If I didn't plan for that in our budget, then that can be a really big hit coming in the summer. And looking at what that looks like and breaking it down monthly, and in Profit First, one of the things they talk about is you go save that money and put it in every single month. So if I look at my kid who was roughly $1,200, I know it's crazy, to play hockey this year, I should be putting $100 of expenses into my expense account every month. Because that way, when I get to July, when I have to register him for hockey, the money's already sitting there. I'm not looking and seeing, well, in July, I need to make another $1,200 because I'm going to have this $1,200 expense. You should be really planning for that the entire year, building that into your monthly expenses. You may not spend it yet, but you're building that expense account. So when that comes, you're already ready for it and you're not falling behind. Sense? Questions? And a drawing.
Are you so passionate about the subject that you chose to do it on your birthday?
Yes, I absolutely chose to do this on my birthday on purpose. So that's how this is like my birthday party, guys. Super exciting. Yeah, there's the streamers in my office, so there's gonna be like an after party though. I'm sure we get done here. The Telegram hasn't made it, so that's really exciting. Yet we still have time, unfortunately.
Might show up at your house tonight.
Yeah, I don't know.
No idea what we're gonna do.
I don't know anything what you guys are gonna do. You are absolutely correct. What questions do you have on this, working through it? Do you feel like you could go sit down with your computer, all of your receipts, create your business plan and go at this point? Did I spit a lot of information at you and now it doesn't quite, it just seems like a lot?
What was the name of the book you held up earlier? I couldn't see it because she's too small on my
Profit
Profit
First.
First. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And you may be a lucky winner here in a minute. Who knows? Yeah, this one, like, I really enjoyed this book in a weird way, right? The numbers are fun.
Rachel, who is the author of that?
How do you pronounce his last name? Michaelwitz.
Awesome.
Michaelwitz. What were his parents thinking, really? Naming him Michaelwitz? It's not okay. Sorry. So a lot of that goes into this builds great on that. And this book gives you tools to make sure that you're doing it with your account. I mean, it talks about literally creating separate bank accounts for your profit, your personal expenses, your business expenses, and savings.
7 bank accounts, right?
7 bank accounts, 7 of them. See, she read it more recently than I did. Yes, I think it is 7 bank accounts. You're right. And making sure that you're creating those things so they don't get lost in the wash. I mean, that's what can be really easy is if all your money's sitting in one bucket and it looks like, oh, this is really great. My bank account's looking really high. Well, what happens when this big expense that you weren't planning for takes out all your profit because you don't have as much profit as you thought you were going to? And making sure that those things are separate. And they even talk about in here, like your profit account should be at a whole separate bank and somewhere that's not terribly easy to get money from. So like one of the instructors when I was in Profit Bootcamp, she's like, we have this, local bank that's got one location that has a terrible online system. She's like, people are really nice. Customer service great. She's like, I physically have to go in to withdraw that money. Like I have to make the effort to go cut that check versus if I'm looking at my US bank account and I can go transfer money and say, oh, well, this is little, let's go grab it from there. It doesn't have those same gates that you have to get through in the mix in the way that you can when you're setting it up. Your tax account is supposed to be really hard to get to because you should never pull from your tax account unless your accountant tells you to. Absolutely. That's one of the other buckets. Thank you. Taxes. Have we talked about taxes yet today? text more. Okay. All right, should we do our drawing?
Did everyone get a card in there?
Did everybody get a card in here? Emily, did you get everybody online? I think maybe,
I think I got the vast majority. Anyone just jump
is
on?
this one Olu? Do we know?
Yes.
I think you got Olu in here.
Nobody got a little, the mascot one?
Okay, she's gonna put Olu in there, then we'll do the drawing. The next thing I just want to say, what's next? Next week, we're talking about part 3. Here, same time, same place, next Thursday. Now you know how many units you need to collect. Jeez, you think I still worked at a blood bank. All the units we're gonna collect didn't go away. Awkward. So you look at, you know how many units you need to close next year. Well, now how the heck are you gonna do it? So what does that look like in creating your GPS and your 411 so that you have a game plan of how you're going to run your business now that you know how to financially run your business? And then the other thing I really wanted to plug to is the business planning clinic. It's a nationwide business planning clinic this year. A lot of times they've done it regionally. Thanks to COVID, that's kind of going away for this year. However, the bonus of that is we get Jean Rivers to run our business clinic. So it will be virtual. We're planning on doing a watch party here in the market center as well. Tickets are $49, so it's pretty cheap. And if you haven't seen Jean teach, don't miss it. He's phenomenal. It's October 20th and 21st, so mark your calendars there. We'll go through some of this stuff. So as you're scratching the surface now, he'll really dig a lot deeper into it, as well as other things that are really gonna help your business. And I'm happy to meet one-on-one. So if there's questions that you don't wanna ask in front of this group, things you wanna get started with, confusion, please, would love to set up time with you and go through what your business looks like and make sure we're helping you build that on the front end. So things can be really great next year versus ideally we're not doing it halfway through the year when we're playing a lot of catch up. You know, we can do that too if we have to, yet it's better to be prepared at the beginning. All right, drawing. We're gonna do one book today, one book next week. Winner is Rachel Bernier. Woo! Perfect.
Cookie and a book.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's like it's your birthday. Weird.
I'll give you a cookie.
You'll give me a cookie, my
Do
own
I get the
cookie?
book too, or just my?
No, you just get your card back.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Anything else before we close up? We ended a little bit early. Anything else you guys want to cover or questions you might have? Easy crowd. Okay, good. I'm glad. So, like I said, please reach out to me if you have any questions. You want to go through this together. Happy to do so. We'll see you guys later.
I'm dreading going through my credit card statement and bank accounts to see where. I know. Yeah.